And 7-1 right now.
Well, the spice is pretty nice since he is 7-1. We're going to watch these two players do battle in our last match of the day. Little Obs on aggro mirror. Did not expect Kyle to be playing this. This is kind of fun for me, though. You know, I talk to the players when we can during a break, and I haven't actually run into Kyle yet this weekend, someone who I haven't seen for a little while. We see each other at tournaments all the time. Now we don't as much anymore, and if you would ask me what he was playing, I'd just some dig through time deck because that's just what he likes to do.
Also 9th place at the Pro Tour.
Yeah, with blue-black control.
Exactly.
So there's Fleece Main Lion. As we are underway here in round number 9, our last round of coverage here from Cleveland.
Gotta say, I'm pretty excited by Connor's deck over here. 4 copies of Collected Company. This is someone who means business.
You know, I've been thinking a little bit recently, as Kyle's going to sacrifice a Windswept Teeth to get himself a Forest, and we'll probably have a Fleece Main Lion or a Death Dealer on the way. Mono black aggro is a deck that hasn't been really seeing any play. I was thinking of Herald Torment recently, and just like, that's a really good card that's not really seeing any play. I wonder why that is. And I was thinking about, okay, well, like mono red's kind of a deck. Why doesn't mono black aggro see any play? I'm not entirely sure. Haven't got the opportunity to think about all that much. But I was like, Herald just seems like a really powerful card that sees 0 play.
I feel like your Obs-on matchup is a little bit worse because you're a lot more susceptible to spot removal than mono red is.
Sure.
Because you have to deal 20 through combat, and you don't have anything like Whirling Outburst to push your way through individual removal spells.
Okay.
I worked on mono black aggro very early on. I expected it to be good. It was not.
It's unfortunate. I think that deck Fleece Main Lion's going to hang back on defense. Boggemes will draw a card.
The classic Plains plus Rakshasa Death Dealer opening here for Connor. Trapping him up a little bit.
Well, Fleece Main Lion's going to come in the red zone, so if Connors isn't attacking, it's not blocking either. That's a little surprising. I think he would do one or the other.
It's so risky there for Kyle to play a trick there even if he has it, because there's the risk of Dromoka's Command. Though I suspect if Connor had Dromoka's Command, probably what he does last turn is just get rid of the Fleece Main Lion, attack for 4.
See what Boggemes is able to put together on this turn. Mana's good to go for his Obs-on aggro deck right now. That's always one of the issues, but things have lined up appropriately. There's Anafenza, passing of the turn over to Bowman.
And that's effectively Kyle breaking serve there as Connor took turn 3 completely off. Now it looks like Kyle was actually the one on the play this game.
Bowman has an Anafenza of his own now. Kyle will play a Temple. Take a look at the top card. We'll see where that's going to go. Stay on top.
And Kyle with a downfall in his hand he can't cast. Looks like he does have Dromoka's Command, so he's got some options this turn.
And Anafenza the trigger. Put a counter on the Fleece Main Line, and in we go.
And if this is Dromoka's Command in Kyle's hand right now, Connor has nothing in the way of good blocks.
Yeah, not really. We'll have a single block. And Dromoka's Command is a very powerful magic card. Yep, kill all your stuff.
Yep.
That's just kind of how that goes.
And now even Siege Rhino is not a high impact play for Connor.
Yep. There's a Citadel. Connor does have Collected Company in hand too. Not sure which route he wants to go. Siege Rhino looks like the choice, however.
This is a tough turn because Connor is just not in a position to block against a 5-5 and what's about to become another 5-5.
Could become a 6-6 if Boggemes has the 5th land. Red zone, trigger from Anafenza. Fleece Main Line's a 5-5 now. Rarely do you see Siege Rhino just straight up outclassed.
Yep. Little low impact for this one.
And here is a Siege Rhino. This one's a bit of a runaway.
Yep. It all goes back to Connor doing nothing on the 3rd turn, Kyle having a good curve, and Connor's just been on the back foot since.
Connor's not even going to bother to draw his card for the next turn, as he knows he's beat. Sometimes you just get your butt kicked.
Yep. It was, I mean, Connor had a really solid opening hand there, Siege Rhino and Fenza and Fleece Main Lion, but just a land that came into play tapped, did not have the requisite mana to cast Rakshasa Death Dealer because he was on the plains as his opening, and he never caught up.
Kyle Boggemes is going to win game number 1 here over Connor Bowman. I was on Agrimir, goes to Kyle. Thus far, as we take a look at the sideboards, again, Connor's version, pretty innovative with the Herald Torments, the Grim Hero specs, and Collected Company. You got any spice on the board?
3 copies of Corsair Crewfix, 2 copies of Ultimate Price, 2 copies of Sorin Solemn Visitor, 2 copies of Drown and Sorrow, a Hero's Downfall, 3 Thoughtseize, 2 Merciless Executioner. I like the Hero's Downfall here. I like the 2 copies of Sorin as well. I think 2 copies of Ultimate Price are pretty poor in this matchup as most of the good threats are gold. It's possible Corsair of Crewfix comes in here if Connor wants to slow it down a little bit. Anticipate the game is more about removal and going long post board.
We'll take a look at Kyle's sideboard. Got ourselves a couple copies of Den Protectors, 2 of those, 2 Duress, 3 Thoughtseize, 2 Elspeth Sun's Champion, 2 Drown and Sorrow, 3 Ultimate Price, yuck in this match, and then a Valor Stance.
Same deal here. I'm trying to go a little bit bigger, a little bit longer Valor Stance. The copies of Elspeth and the Den Protector is very good to that end.
Well, pretty straightforward stuff. These players will be ready to go here for game number 2 in just a moment. We're going to look at our Season 2 schedule here very quickly. Of course, Syracuse was won by Chris Van Meter, Providence by Oliver D'Amico, and now Cleveland, who knows, could be Kyle Boggemes. It's tough to say. But we only have a couple of dates left in the season.
And after this, we go to Portland. Now, this is the event that was in Seattle. It's been moved to Portland. That's coming up next weekend. After that, we have a weekend off. Then we move to Dallas for a standard open, our one Legacy Open of Season 2 in Worcester, Massachusetts, and then the Season 2 Invitational, Columbus, Ohio, tied to the Origins Game Fair. Modern, for the first time, will appear as an invitational format alongside Standard with a two-day, $20,000 Modern Open Series event.
Now, we've been talking about how short the season is and the dates that are left. Portland, Dallas, Worcester, and then we have our Invitational, because the race for Season 2 is so tight. We talked about Kevin Jones, who is not going to make day 2. Danny Jessup's not here. Joe Lissette's not going to make day 2. So it's on Ross Merriam and Gerard Fabiano now.
Striking distance, and the Ross and Gerard, even if they do well in this tournament, have to hope that Kevin and Joe don't have great performances in their IQs tomorrow. But a great opportunity for Ross and Gerard to make up some ground here and make that race even tighter as we move to Portland and beyond.
It's going to be a lot of fun to watch, especially day 2 of this tournament, because it looks like Ross and Gerard are going to make day 2. Gerard's already a lock, and if 3 losses is in, if Ross loses his match, he's going to be in day 2, but obviously he'd like to win it and move on to 7-2 for tomorrow's competition. Every one of those matches is going to matter between those 2 guys.
It's a huge deal.
And of course, for Kevin and for Joe, well, they got some Premier IQs, which are also a huge deal.
And now there's a lot of pressure on them for those events as well.
Yeah.
And just no one's going to be coasting into this thing. Season 1, Jim performed well, worked the hardest, traveled to a lot of events, and went into the Invitational Enrichment, having the invite already locked up. I do not think we're going to be seeing that story when we go to Columbus in about a month.
I would be surprised if we do. I suppose someone could really run away with this thing, but again, I would be surprised if that's the case.
It's just so tight right now, and the local IQ scene also provides a lot of fuzziness too.
Yep. Kyle Boggemes is the player on your left, the more well-known of the 2. 9th place at Pro Tour. Dragons of Tarkir. Wrote an article for the premium side of Star City Games. It actually came out yesterday, so if you want to check out, one, how he kind of got to the deck that he did in the finish, and actually the changes that he's made for his blue-black deck to kind of combat Esper Dragons, even though he's changed decks, feel free to do that. He also wrote in the article, however, that one deck that he was preparing to play against at the Pro Tour was Abzan Aggro. He basically said, in any tournament you play, you know you're going to play against Siege Rhino.
Yes.
And this time he's actually just choosing to cast Siege Rhino.
For all of the metagame fluctuations that we've had over the last couple of months, if you add up all the Siege Rhino decks together, they're almost invariably the most popular deck that you see on the second day of competition at Opens.
Yeah, it's the one constant.
And I'm sure Grand Prix would tell you a similar story.
You know, there are definitely some things, you know, it's interesting. I don't know if it's going to be this week. I don't know if it's going to be next weekend when there's a Grand Prix in Toronto and the Open Series is in Portland, but it just feels like somebody's working on some Crackling Doom deck.
When people are putting Foul Tongue Invocation into their decks with no dragons, that probably means it's Crackling Doom time.
It's just a little too quiet out there. No one talking about Mardu. No Butcher of the Hordes to be seen. Rabble Master has trended downward in a big way recently.
Can we get a red-black beatdown deck with Bloodsoaked Champion splashing some Crackling Dooms?
You got me interested. You get to work on that, I probably won't play it. But you get to work on that anyway. Temple of Silence here. That's a Bloodsoaked Champion's a pretty good card that no one's playing.
I would imagine it's pretty solid against Esper Dragons if you're able to back it up with some removal spells.
That's true. Let's see if Kyle's got a turn 2 play. He's going to sacrifice a Windswept Teeth. He'll play Air of the Wilds. We'll see if it's going to be a forest or a plains as he does pass the turn. It'll be a forest. Land number 3 for Connor is a plains. Hero's Downfall at the ready and has the necessary mana to cast it. But we'll just pass the turn back over to Boggemes. Boggemes will draw. In comes the air. No effects there from Bowman. So Connor will go down to 18. Sandstorm Citadel and just passing of the turn. I'm sure Connor was hoping for some sort of 3-drop to kill with that Hero's Downfall.
Exactly. Boggemes and Defensa.
Yeah, and now Connor is kind of in this really weird rock and a hard place where he's like, I guess I have to kill this with Hero's Downfall, I guess.
Connor's hand's all spells.
Yeah.
So it's not like he can afford to just leave this Downfall up forever. He's got to be casting stuff.
And Downfall's such a super expensive spell that you can't just not play it right now, I think.
Yep.
If it were like a Lightning Bolt or something that you could play, that in something else in the same turn, but 3 mana is so much. Now Valor Stance is kind of a beating too.
And that's perfect because it looked like Kyle was about to burn off the 3rd turn doing nothing and instead still got to trade it with 3 mana and one of the most important cards in the matchup in Hero's Downfall.
Warden of the 1st tree. Pass the turn back. Over to Boggemes. Boggemes will draw. Got Death Touch.
Yep.
Basically a freebie. Come on into the red zone. Temple of Silence to start. Top card going to stay on top. Follow up. And Offensive.
Also good news there for Kyle that Connor was without Valorous Stance, which is, I'm sure, a card that Kyle was worried about that turn.
Yeah, that's interesting because that play looks a little weird where Kyle plays that offensive post-combat. He's missing out on Ferocious Trigger, but yeah, I think arguments can be made of wanting to do it that way instead of playing a pre-combat.
Well, it's possible, Kyle's got Dromoka's command in hand, and you don't know if something's going to come up there.
Yep.
If Connor has literally nothing, I don't think Kyle minds giving up on the point of damage there because Kyle's just so far ahead.
Yep.
And if Connor does have some sort of response, you may just want to have your mana available.
Because what's interesting there is, if by not doing that, Kyle is basically saying, okay, I'm going to attack you with my Air of the Wilds. If you try to block and make your Warden of the 1st tree into a 3/3, I'll just Dromoka's command and kill it. Mm-hmm. And then I have my creature. So now here's an attack. So he does miss out on a point of damage, but he also gives Connor, I think, the opportunity to make a mistake there.
Exactly.
There's your block. Warden of the 1st tree is going to bite the dust because Air of the Wilds is a 4/4 due to the Ferocious Trigger. Now here's a Siege Rhino. I hope for Bowman's sake that he has something to get that air off the table or the Anafenza or something.
Yeah, it's possible Connor just didn't realize what the board was going to look like there after the fact. And without a removal spell anyway, I think he's in a ton of trouble, but that certainly is doing no favors.
Now here's an attack, and it might be a lethal one. I think we're going to see a Collected Company, and we will. So it's going to have to be a really, really good one. Now, oddly enough, I actually think Collected Company is probably pretty good in this deck.
Well, there's a lot of good ones to choose from.
Yeah. And Offense and a Fleece main line there, for example.
4 mana is tough on this deck.
Yep.
You're willing to pay for Siege Rhino. Once you get past that, it starts getting a little sketcy. But
Anafenza is going to block Anafenza. Shoulder shrug. Lethal attack. Yeah, and that's going to do it. Kyle Boggemes is going to win this match here over Connor Bowman. 2-0. Obs on aggro goes to Kyle, and he is 8-1 moving into day 2.